Here we go with a short chapter, chapter 22 of book 1. Nume morte ad interregnum res reddit. Nice short sentence. So, at the death, morte of Numa, genitive, the res, which is the state, it returned or reverted ad interregnum. Interregnum is a period without a king. Inde, then, Talus hostilium, the nepotem, grandson, genitive of Hostius, another genitive, so it's this same guy, of who, this will be this Hostilius, in the infirma arche, at the foot of the citadel, the arche, Clara Pugna, in a famous battle, adverse Sabinos, against the Sabines, furat. So, this guy, who was the grandfather, he was in a famous battle against the Sabines, and the populace. Here we have the nominative now. The people, Usided, they ordered him, esse regem, to be the king. But there's no other verb there, so it's just Usided. People wanted him to be the king, and the patres are the senators, the fathers. They were also behind this. They were the authors of this action as well. So it looks like everyone's happy. The people wanted this, and the Senate. Okay, since it's a short book, we'll make Nepos the daily dictionary, male or female. Grandson, granddaughter, nephew, niece, descendant, figuratively a spendthrift or prodigal. Okay, everyone should know that. So, hic, him, non solum, not only, dissimilus, one of these third adjectives, to the proximo regi, to the latest king, or this nearest king that they had, but he was ferocia, which is a comparative, etiam quem, even then Romulus was. So not only was he dissimilar to this previous king, but he was ferocia even then Romulus was. Okay. Cum aetates vires qui, as the enclitic qui means and vires is the third declension meaning strength. So the age and strength, we have tum here, so it could be a cum tum correlative sort of thing. Avatar, quoque gloria animum stimulate. So basically we've got his age or his youth and his strength combined, cum tum, with the gloria, avatar, they're in opposition, so it's his grandfather's glory. These things were stimulating him or goading him or provoking him, inciting him on into his animum, which is a simple sentence, really. So that's his spirit, his heart was, all these things were provoking him on, especially when you consider his age. Age usually makes people sort of brave and rash, etc. Senescere, igator. So therefore, sivatimotio ratus. Ratus comes from the supine. You should know all your conjugations and all that. So ratus means he thought. So therefore he was thinking that the Sivatum, the city-state here, was senescere, growing old or decrepit in its otio, which is leisure time. And so, undique, from everywhere, he was querebating, imperfect, he was searching for material. Sometimes that means lumber, but it can just mean material in the English sense as well, for this gerund here. He was searching for some reason to provoke a war or excite a war. Okay, and we're nearly halfway done for the day. Forte, by chance or perchance, evenit, it happened, ut that the Romani agrestes, it's nearly English, isn't it? The rural Roman people, something happens, ex Albano agro, from the fields or territory of the Albans, and the Albani, that's their plural, praetors, this is the common word, were in vicem, in turn, they were agerenting. So the country Roman people were agerenting, they were driving off these praetors, which is booty, cattle, etc., from the Albano fields, and the Albans, they were in turn driving off the praetors from the Roman agro, from the Roman fields. Okay. Imperabating tum then was Gaius Cluvius of Urbe. That must be there in that place. This here's the verb. So he was giving the orders. He was the man in charge. And Urbe. Very short sentences. Livy sometimes has some long ones, but it's pretty easy going so far. So, utrumque on both sides, legati. That's the nominative, the legates, the delegates or the ambassadors. Fere sub idem tempus. As we know, tempus neuter. Fere means almost, sometimes there's an M in it. So almost around the same time, legates from both sides were missi. The I means it's plural, they were sent. Ad res for this matter at hand to repetendas. So they wanted their reparations or they wanted the matter sorted out. So Tullus, he's the guy from the beginning, remember? Tullum hostilium, the nepotem hostili. He gave precepts, which are instructions, to suis, to his people, which are legati. That ne quid, that not anything, priusquam prior than mandata agerant. So they shouldn't do anything before they're instructed or they've entrusted or given instructions, mandata. Semicolon. Okay, so satis sciebant. So he was thinking satisfactorily that Albanum negatorum. These are the Albani people from the Albans. And these are in opposition here. And negatorum is a future, the second type of future. So he satisfactorily thought that they would deny. They were seeking a settlement. So he thought they'd settle it. So ita, thus, he was able to indikai bellum pi. This is piously. So therefore, he'd be able to bring about war. He would start a war, declare a war piously, or he would have the rights to do this to his people. From the Albanus, the Albans, they acted the res. They actor is the participle. We had one up here earlier. So they did it secordius, which we see the IUS. It's usually with neuter adjectives and with the adverb. So we'll adverb this up. So they did it rather slowly. So they completed their task with the legates were going on, etc. They did it rather slowly, secordius. Or the lobe has laxly, if that's a better word for you. Accepti, so the plural were received. In hospitium, this comes from a neuter, it's the dative ablative singular. So they were received hospitably ab tullo, that's just your standard ablative, by tullos tullum or tullus. Blande and benigne, which is usually something like flatteringly or pleasantly and kindly they were received in hospitality by this king. And comita means friendly. They celebrated the convivium regis. This is the party or the feast or banquet that they were having, and it was provided of the king, party of the king. Tentispa, adverb. So usually means a little bit. The Romani, the Romans, a little bit. So also, or two, prior. So a little bit prior, they had been repetiveranting the res. The gerundive was up there. Repetanus. They were seeking their redress, as they call it. They were seeking some retribution or reparations for when their pradas were driven off. And it had been with the Albano Niganti. The Albanians had denied them this. And bellum in triceum diem indexred. So they had, there's the NT meaning it's plural. So these Romans, the Romani, had declared that there would be a bellum, which is war, neuter, in 30 diem, 30 days. Okay, so these Romani, these people, the hack, the Romans had returned from there, obviously, and they renunciated this to Tullus. So they announced what had happened to Tullus. So then, Tullus, nominative, dicenda potestum quid potentes, present participle, venerate facere. So then Tullus faceted it. He made it so that they could have the power of speaking to the legates, the Alban legates, quid, what they had venerate, what they had come here with the present participle seeking. So, some Romans had gone to the Albans and they didn't want anything to do with it. They said, we'll have war in 30 days. This had happened at basically the same time when Tullus was giving a feast for those other legates. The Romans returned and said to Tullus what had happened. In 30 days there'd be war. So then Tullus gave these legates the power of speaking what it was that they'd come here wanting. And we'll pick it up again. Okay. So Eli, these, ignari, again plural. These people were ignorant, omnium, of everything. And primum, and first, they terrantud the tempest. They wore down time, or wasted some time, in gerund, in purgando. Apologies is a good word for it. Basically, it's clearing the name or saying, we're ignorant of this. Anyway, semicolon. Okay, so say were invitos. These people were reluctant that quicquem anything, quad minus, would be less placating or pleasing, dative to Tullus, dicturus is it's plural accusative. So the invitos them were saying that they were unwilling to say anything which would be less pleasing to Tullus, said, but they were subiki, they were subjected to the order. They obviously received order, imperio, comes from imperium. That Venisse say they had come, repetitum res, it could be a supine because this is a verb of motion. They had come because they were also wanting the matter settled back here over the praedas, this booty or cattle or wherever they were. Ni redantur bellum indicere usos. Okay, so unless this redress was found, they were ordered, usos, to declare war. And ad hoc to these things, Tullus, he inquired, he said, plural imperative, nuntiate, announce, vestro regi to your king, that the regem Romanum, the Roman king, was facerating, making the dios testes, he was making the gods witnesses. Uta, that which one of the populace, people, prior, res repentes legatos aspernos dismiss. Okay. Which would spurn, so that the populace aspertus, which of the two people would first demisserate, that just means dismiss those legates who were seeking the, let's say, a decent outcome or even a treaty or some form of redress, that ut into them, in eum, would come omnes expendent huisci clades, that all this clades of war, all this disaster of war, and the CE on the pronoun, that's just emphatic of huisc, of these expetent. So, in other words, Tullus has said to them, announce to your king, the Roman king is using the gods as these witness, basically, that the one who first, prius, spurns, who spurns the legates who are seeking the redress or the grievances seen, and dismisses these legates, demiserates the legates, and then sends them away, that it's on him, on that king, would all the disasters of this war be on him. Expetent, it's just the verb, meaning seek it, actually. Looks like we'll start chapter 23. So, haec nuntiat domum Albani. So, the Albans Doma means they're going towards their houses. They went home with these things being told to them, basically, and they must have told their own people. And Bellum, Utrimqui on both sides, with Summa Ope, with their utmost of resources, all their resources were parabator, were prepared. Very similar, that's the superlative, to a civil war, civile bello. Prope, almost inter parents natosque. It's almost as if it was between parents and their natos, the offspring, or their children. Utremque, on both sides were Trojan prolem, these were offspring from Troy. When Lavium had come from Troy, Lavinium, and from Lavinium had come Alba, and from the album stirp, from the stock of these albanorums, these albans, Orundi had arisen the Romans. So from the royal stirp, the royal stock of the albans, the Romans had arisen, ascent. And so Eventus, Tarman, yeah, we're nearly done. That is it for the day. So Eventus, nevertheless, this Eventus Bellum, the outcome of the war, was minus miserabilim, was less miserable, or was fecit, was made less, the fighting, dimicationem, so the fighting itself was less miserable, quad, because neither of the battle lines, curtatumes, so they didn't come together and clashing, and with modo only the tectus dirutus alturius urbis. So tectus means roofs, it's houses or buildings, were dirutus, these were overturned or destroyed in Alterius Urbis, in one of the cities only, and the duo populi, the two people, were confusi, fused together in unum, they come together. So as they come from the same sort of stock, they had a bit of a dispute, which was made less miserable because the groups didn't actually fight it out, the Akis didn't come together and fight, just the buildings of one of the cities were destroyed and the two people came together in one big city, which would be Rome, I guess.